Alright folks, well, I'm gonna keep this very short, what I'm about to say right over here. We are gonna be going through this in a special way, which would be using a special guide that I have like right over here. The Special Guide to a Certain Future by Connecting 50 Fragments. I had to talk with Lambda Delta, I had to talk with Ben Castel about this, I had to break some of my bones in order to get this guide, literally, and we're gonna be going through this because God knows how long it will take me to go through this if I were to try to decipher this myself, like repeat this stuff like over and over and over. So if I use this guide, I'm gonna be able to go through these like in like the correct order, and we get some bonuses for doing this. So yeah, we're gonna be doing it just like that. So let me just open my guide over here. Like, hold on, let me pretend that I'm opening like a physical book right over here. I don't know if you can hear that. That's like a notebook right over here. Whatever. Let's see. The guide says that the first one should be local project meeting. Like, I'm gonna have to count these. Like 18. It should be on this page right over here, I think. Actually, hold on. There's like a there's like a page for this. Okay, it's on page 4, so it should be like right here. A local explanatory meeting. Okay, I think this is it. I think that some names are gonna be a little bit different from the guide right over here. For example, the next one would be Furude Rika on page 5, which would be this. Yeah, okay. Yeah, this fragment is required first. Alright, so we're going to be going through this.
でして、ダムの建設事業に伴う地域振興や地域産業の育成などですね。
Like, we have a lot of stuff to do here, folks. We're gonna have to go through a lot of fragments right over here. And, you know, like, if it were me in the past, I would have gone with the moral idea of, oh, this is my journey, I have to figure this out by myself. If it takes, like, long, I will be able to figure this out, no problem. But no, time is of the essence for me, like, these days. Sorry, folks.
そんなことは聞いてねえっつってんだろ。
俺らの誰の断りがあってダムなんか作ろうって言い出したかって聞いてんだ。
おう、わしらから税金絞るだけ絞っといて、それに対する返事がこれっちゅうんか。
Yeah.
あんどりゃ誰の税金で給料もらったんじゃ。
Yeah.
ですから、先ほどから申し上げておりますように、
言い訳など聞いちゃならんねえ。いつ計画を中止するんか聞いとるんじゃい。
お前じゃ話にならん。東京の建設大臣を連れてこい。ここではっきり白黒つけちゃう。
ごめんか、コッパ役人が。大体踊れら人様の税金で仕事しとって、なんでわしらより高い段で話をしとるんじゃ。目線で話さんかい、目線で。
The auditorium is filled with angry shouting. The sign at the entrance says, Hinamizawa Dam Construction Explanatory Meeting. Every time the official on the stage tried to say anything, the citizens packed into the room silenced him with their shouts. Trying to ignore them, the official continued to explain the pros of the dam, but that just further infuriated them. Between the stage and the citizens, there was an open area where a police squad is standing by. If they weren't there, the citizens would jump onto the stage and start a riot. I'm watching all this from the back of the auditorium. Oh, damn! We're getting a new perspective. Is that going to be the case for every single one of these? I mean, it would be nice. But yeah, I don't know if I said this before, but I'm gonna say it like right over here. Yeah, it seems that with the end of chapter 7, Hani was like, you know what? I do have a change of heart. I am gonna fight as well. So, Here we are. Connecting all the 50 fragments is Hanyu's way of doing the hard work in order to achieve a good future. It's obvious to anyone that they're being soiled by their anger. They become filled with a bloody red rage. The anger that came from a certain purpose becomes a purpose in itself, and it creates a vicious cycle, where anger leads to more anger. What was it that Yoda said? Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering. 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 I don't know why I'm repeating that last word. Suffering. Suffering. Anger is a necessary emotion for humans. People face many difficulties in their lives. Anger gives them the motivation to fight and conquer such difficulties. Therefore, anger is an essential part of life itself. So I will never reject anger itself. However, anger like this, that goes far beyond normal, makes people forget their purpose. That is no longer an essential part of life. As the blood rushes to their head, a person can't even remember what they've done. They go out of control. Yeah, I can understand that by how red the screen is turning. Such emotions are very painful, sad, and difficult to endure. I can clearly see the villagers who live alongside us turning into demons. I understand the rules of the human world. The power of an individual can't be compared to the power of the government. To be able to fight, an individual needs to become part of a larger unified power. But to steer that unified power in the right direction is extremely difficult. The cycle of anger leads to more anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering. Not anger that helps you live, but anger that exists only for anger. It's just like being a demon. And this emotion is capable of violently rousing us from our long peaceful slumber. Everyone is immersed in their own anger. We lived peacefully with the villagers while we slept quietly. Yet now we've awakened. And it's like the world is trying to return to that age when demons were said to rise from Onigafuchi swamp. I keep shouting at everyone to get them to calm down, but my voice can't reach them because of the vicious cycle of anger. Even so, I'll continue shouting, hoping even one of them will hear my voice. Oh. Because if I don't do anything, the demons may awaken. The demons that went into a deep sleep may reawaken because of this commotion. Then, all of a sudden, the atmosphere changed. Looking up, I saw that the angry exchange between villagers and those on the podium had devolved into confrontation between the villagers themselves. What's going on?
じゃかましいわ。そりゃオンドレの都合やんね。勝手にそういう風にせんといてんだ、クソババア。
What? Satoko's dad? I mean, we know that Satoko's dad was in the opposition, that they are in favor of the dam construction. Yeah.
繁盛すったらんはアホンだら。もう一旦抜かしよってからにこのやから。
But damn, why does Satoko's dad sound so similar to Teppei?
おうてめえ、お涼さんと知っててその口聞いとるんかいな。上等きっちゃら、おい名乗るかいおい。かっかましいわ。その崎がなんぼのもんじゃい。わしゃ北条じゃ。腰巾着は引っ込んどらんか。
おお、北条のなまぬかしよった。ようも村を沈めちゃる言えるの。お前なんぼで村を売った。
黙らんか死に損ないが。いいんか。南沢には貧乏にも大勢おるん。お前んとこみたいに山に畑をうなるほど持ってる地主とわけが違う。わしゃあの国の報奨金で十分満足しとったん。町の公営住宅も手配してくれるっちゅうし、なんも不足はなかった。それをオンドレラが全部ちゃぶ台ひっくり返しちゃったん。オドレラ地主の都合で人まで巻き込むなや。 そんなに国と喧嘩せんかったら踊りが一人でやれ。したらん銭は誰が払うんね。踊りかいな。うちはな貧乏だし育ち盛りが二人もおるん。おとなしゅう国から銭をもろうて職を斡旋してもろうて人生再設計ちゅうとこなんや。それを踊りはなんじゃ。いつからお前はわしの代表になったんじゃ。お前そんなに偉いんか。ああ、
おうおうおう、北条のようも抜かしたこの裏切り者が。なら村から出てけ出てけ。
おお、出て行ったらもちろんそれに見合う銭はお前が払うんじゃろうな。わしが国からもらい損ねた銭きっちり都合つけてくれるんじゃろうな。なあ、村から出とうとも銭がないんじゃ。踊りが払うんならすぐにでも出たったろわ。
北条の言う通りだ。立ち退いてもいいと思ってる住民もいるんだぞ。御三家は俺たちを巻き込むな。
おうおう、なんじゃい。今抜かしたのは誰じゃい。名乗らんかボケ。
残りたいやつは勝手に残ればいいだろうが。立ち退きも権利じゃ。勝手に人様の権利に干渉すんな、このダラツが。そうじゃそうじゃ。その先のクソババアはすっこんでね。
ああ、もちろんダム計画に同意してくださる方には見合う保証を用意いたしております。決して土地の搾取ではありませんので。
黙れ役人ボケ。おんどりゃ村真っ二つに策を魂胆かい。死ねや北条。村の空気を吸う資格はねえ。今すぐ息止めて死ね。
なめんなボケが。ぶっ殺したら前に出るクソババア。ああ、おおおお、引っ込まんかいデカポリ。
よう抜かした。よう抜かした北条のこの園崎おりょう。久々に頭血のぼってきよったわ。きっちりけじめ取らしてもらうかんの。繁盛楽しみに待っとれや。
北条やれやれ。国は俺たちに仕事と住みかと金を与えろ。
こらこら、やめなさい暴力は。お互いやめてやめて。
すったらんちょうとじゃ。恩師が出てこんかいな。
Everyone's being tainted with a bloody red anger, and I can only watch. The least I can do is to apologize for the tragedy that is about to happen. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. This is how things started. From this day onward, the Hojo family and the Sonzaki family will wage a feud against each other, and the Hojo family will become ostracized within the village. This marks the beginning of Satoko and Satoshi's lives of tremendous hardship. Man, you know, looking at how Satoko's dad talks in this, Satoko's dad and Teppei surely had quite a rough childhood, didn't they? For them to become what they are. We know Teppei. We've seen how Satoko's dad talked in this, so yeah. Alright, next would be, I think it was like Furude Rika piece 40, which would be this one on page 5. Alright, a conflict between the Hojo family and the Sonzaki family is required. Yeah, there you go. I ran into Satoko while on my way to the grocery store for my mother. Satoko said she was going there too, so we decided to go together. After exchanging our shopping lists, it became easy to guess what the other family would be having for dinner. Satoko's family is having grilled fish and cooked vegetables. We're having Salisbury steak. Okay, so, like, perspective will change from fragment to fragment, it seems.
あら、ハンバーグとは羨ましいですわね。私、魚はともかく煮物というのがちょっと怖いんですのよ。先日買ったかぼちゃがまだだいぶ残ってるみたいなんですもの。きっと今夜もかぼちゃの煮物三昧なのです。かわいそかわいそなのです。あらかじめかぼちゃが出てくると分かっているのも憂鬱でございますわね。はあ。みー。突然かぼちゃを出されても怒るくせに贅沢なさとこなのです。リカにだって少しは嫌いな食べ物があるはずですわよ。そういえばリカ、大福とかシュークリームとか甘いものが嫌いだったんではございませんこと？別に嫌いではないのです。意地悪で食べないだけなのですよ。食べる気なら何個でも食べられちゃいますのです。パンプキンパイだって美味しくいただけますのですよ。ミパーン。リカだけ好き嫌いがないなんてずるいですわ。
Conversations like this are how I have fun. Satoko is my best friend. I usually don't like grocery shopping, but if I'm with Satoko, I can make it into an enjoyable evening stroll. Near the supermarket, there's a grocers and other shops, forming a little shopping district. The grocery store is busy this time of day. All the housewives in Hinamizawa gather here to shop. Since Satoko and I have different things to buy, we decide to do our shopping separately.
いらっしゃい、いらっしゃい。おや、リカちゃま、いらっしゃい。お買い物かい？えらいね。
ミパー、僕はお買い物ができる偉い子なのです。
そうかそうか、リカちゃまは偉いな。ほら、偉い子のご褒美にこれをあげよう。
I mean, damn, this is like early on, like in their lives, a little bit past, like the whole ending of the dam construction struggle. 1980 maybe? Because this is even before, like, Satoko's parents and Rika's parents died, so it was pretty early on. Rika does sound young in this, although Satoko, on the other hand, I see her like right here in similar vein to like present time in 1983. There were several candies for the owner's occasional asthma attack inside a sieve, full of change hanging in front. He picked out a sweet from there and gave it to me. It was my favorite flavor, strawberry milk. I put it in my pocket so I can brag about it to Satoko later. I get a lot of fun out of teasing Satoko and making her jealous. She always overreacts, so I never get bored when I'm with her.
おや、リカちゃまのところは今日は何だい？豚のひき肉だと、
ハンバーグなのですよ。お花の形の目玉焼きを乗っけてケチャップでお絵かきをするのです。
おははは、それはいいね。
I enjoyed that conversation while filling my shopping basket. But then I overheard some women whispering. They're talking about something that's a little harsh. They're talking about Satoko. Uh-oh. How long do those village traders plan to stay here? They should just leave. They don't even have the guts to go shopping themselves and make their daughter do it instead. The women went on and on. Ever since the whole Joe family and the Sonzaki family got into a huge fight at the explanatory meeting for the dam project, the whole Joe family has been ostracized within the village. Okay, so it's not even after, like, the end of the dam construction struggle. It's, like, in the middle of it, like, right after, like, that meeting. At first, there were a significant number of families in favor of leaving like the whole Joes. but the main branch of the Sonozakis led a push to completely solidify the village's opinion. And as that tone of unified resistance grew stronger, the pro-evacuation family steadily grew quiet. The public harassment led by the Sonozakis and the Kimiyoshis, two of the three families with powerful influence on the village, also played an effect too. The Sonozaki family made the Hojo family into an example to ensure there would be no more pro-evacuation supporters. The ancestors of the villagers have lived here for generations, and the villagers also know that they themselves will be buried in this village, so this harassment put a lot of pressure on them. Who was it that agreed to make the Hojo family the leader of the pro-evacuation group at the explanatory meeting? Those same people no longer said anything, and they even joined in on harassing the Hojo family. The harassment they faced then became pressure from the entire village. The Hojo family is hardly wealthy, and they haven't paid the town council fees in a long time. When things were peaceful, nobody said anything about it. But now that the wind was blowing a different way, the Hojo family was asked to pay off all of their late council fees immediately. It wasn't an amount they couldn't afford, but Hojos recognized the fight was being picked with them, and they responded to it. And so, the Hojo family quit the town council. But that only played right into the village's evil plan. Making an enemy of the town council meant facing vicious harassment. For example, the place the Hojos dumped their trash was a provisional dumping site established by the town council and the waste management department. Under the council agreement, only council members could use it. Ever since the day the Hojo family quit the village council, their trash bags were returned to their front door. Furthermore, all the bags were torn. On top of that, a sign went up on the hedge road near the Hojo family. It said, "Private road, no trespassing. Only council members permitted." A stubborn old man stood and guarded the road, saying that he would not let any of the Hojo family members pass through. A private road is private property opened up to the public, so it looks just like a normal road. However, as private property, the owner can forbid anyone else to pass through whenever they like. More and more, the village piled on vicious harassment. The fear of antagonism spread throughout the entire village, and people became afraid that if they supported the Hojo family, they'd go through the same thing. This has made the Hojo family even more isolated. The grown-ups haven't told their kids about what's going on, so Satoko isn't harassed in any way at school. But it wasn't hard to imagine she probably spent her days feeling so anxious she could hardly breathe. Even the women whispering in here aren't saying anything directly to Satoko, but it's not like she doesn't notice their muttering at the Halt stairs. When did this village become so cold towards her? As her best friend, it's very sad for me. Satoko's shopping experience is nothing like mine. When I say hello or buy things, I usually get treats or a discount. But that doesn't happen to Satoko. On the contrary, she's served last on purpose, and sometimes shop owners even pretend they don't hear her. Obviously, people don't want to have anything to do with her. Satoko had been weaving through the housewives crowding the shop, telling the fishmonger what she wanted, but she kept getting ignored. She's decided to keep her smile and pretend she doesn't mind. But I know, it was far too painful for her to endure. At that point, Satoko dropped her coins on the ground. Maybe her finger got stuck on something when she was trying to put the change back into her wallet. I ran through the crowd to help her pick them up. But as I did, I noticed something. Satoko dropped a lot of coins and is struggling to pick all of them up, but nobody is helping her. It's not just that. It's almost like they're acting like they don't even see her there. Satoko isn't expecting anyone to help her, since she's the one who dropped them. But there are so many people around, and not even one is trying to aid her.
さとこ、僕も拾いますですよ。大丈夫ですわよ、リカ。
And that reaction is all I need to tell her how hurt she is. Furthermore, when I start to help Satoko, other housewives start to pick up the coins too. As if it's the natural thing to do. So they can only help if a shrine maiden of the Furude family does. If I didn't help, they would have disregarded her completely. And the fact that other people helped only because I did hurts Satoko even more. I grabbed the coins from the housewives without thinking. I would have spit at them than do that.
ありがとうございますわ。リカ、皆さん。
If she didn't thank them, people would talk about that too. Satoko forced out her words of gratitude. The housewives looked down at her with blank expressions. I can't stand this. I can't stand what Satoko is going through right now.
お買い物が終わりましたら行きましょうです、さとこ。ええ。
I grabbed Satoko's arm and pulled her away. I was frustrated, sad, and bitter. What has Satoko done? Reality is just too cruel. Everyone loves me, but can I share that love with Satoko? Satoko must be wondering why people treat me so differently. I shouldn't come shopping with her. Or rather, I should have done her shopping instead.
さとこ。なんですの、リカ。小銭をばらまいてしまって、かわいそうかわいそうなのです。なので、これはさとこへの残念賞なのですよ。
And give her the strawberry milk candy. I wanted to at least ease her pain a little bit. So I pulled out the strawberry milk candy I just received. But Satoko refused to take it.
その飴はリカがもらったものではありませんの。
My hand froze. She saw me getting this candy.
渡した人だってリカに食べてほしいと思って渡したんですわ。だから私が食べたら失礼ですわよ。
Satoko turned her back on me and kept walking. Without even saying goodbye, she continued on to her house with her shopping bags in her hands. I only wanted to ease her pain, but I ended up rubbing salt in her wound. How can I call myself her best friend? If I could, I would have crushed the candy right there. Oh boy. What can I say? It is sad. Okay. Alright. Guide. Help me a little bit right over here. Alright, next is Operation Halt Dam Project. Alright, it should be like on page 2. Yeah, it is this one.
いやあ、遅くなって申し訳ございません。
What up, Irie?
今日はどういうわけか、患者さんが多くて。お疲れ様です、入江兄さん。
Tomitake stood up suddenly and saluted when he saw Irie come into the room.
そのニサというのはどうかやめてください。私は医者です。どうもその軍隊的な階級には馴染めません。せめて所長でお願いします。了解しました、入江所長。
Tomitake, of course, knew that Irie didn't like to be called Lieutenant Colonel, so it was something of a joke. They laughed casually together. On the other hand, Takano looked rather fed up with it. She couldn't stand hearing the same joke over and over, and was even thinking about talking to Tomitake about it. But she didn't want to hurt his feelings, so she simply never had a chance. Maybe it's because of how Tomitake pronounces it, but she keeps hearing Risa, Lieutenant Colonel in Japanese, Nisa. Oh. When she heard it that way, she kept hearing Irie Risa every time Tomitake said it. When Takano told Irie about it, he had a good laugh. Wait a second, is that... was that the story's way of, like, foreshadowing his role in this, like, early on? Because we did hear his name being Risa before, right? And at some point I was thinking, okay, maybe it's like a cheeky, like, lover nickname given to Tomitake by Takano, but no, it's like a little bit of a hint towards his role, Nisa. Couldn't have figured it out myself, honestly. Today was just a simple meet and greet. And Toboro was the actual meeting. Tomitake had already arrived. Although, to be quite honest, how would you be able to figure it out by that? I don't think he would be able to figure it out. Tomitake had already arrived. But there will be more inspectors from Tokyo at the meeting, waiting to hear about the progress that had been made.
それはそうと、ダムのことで村中が盛り上がってるみたいですね。
ええ、それはもう村中大変な騒ぎですよ。私も役員として自治体の地元説明会に参加してきたのですが、土星と馬星のそれはもう賑やかな説明会となりました。
After the basic Hinamizawa Dam project was announced, the village was consumed with uproar. The government retracted their plans for concessions rather early on. They made their aggressive stance clear. They didn't want the locals to take advantage of them by showing their willingness to compromise. However, that backfired horribly. As they had historical ties to the land, the government's actions only made their bonds stronger. Neither the government nor the locals wanted to back down.
hinamizawaの人は気性が激しいですものね。やっぱり鬼の血が流れてるからなのかしら。
笑い事じゃないですよ。あの説明会に夜中まで付き合わされた方の身にもなってみてください。
それはお気の毒でしたね。
いや、本当に笑い事ではないですよ。富田、ダム計画はどうなってるんですか？本当にこの村はダム湖に沈められてしまうんですか？
それについては東京の方でも圧力をかけています。表向きは騒ぎになっていますが、実際の裏方ではかなり屋台骨がぐらついているはずです。
その圧力が早く効くといいんですがね。村は朝から晩まで賑やかで、村人の心もこのところすさんできたように思います。診察に来るお年寄りに捕まって、たっぷりと反ダム論争を聞かされる時がありますよ。
Oh yeah, you know, this must be very stressful to Irie because he also knows the nature of the Hinamizawa syndrome in similar fashion to Takano, so... Like, you know, when you do research on a disease like this, you would rather have it be like a little bit more controlled, a little bit. So having like the entire village like all agitated because of the dam construction and all that, that would be a little too much for Irie to handle. I don't know about Takano though. Because obviously this would be, well, I did say that like the dam construction should not be successful, otherwise the project is gonna go down. So Takano would definitely not want that. But how does she feel about the entire village being agitated to the point of the syndrome progressing further.
付き合わなければいいのに。入江所長は人がいいから。
そうもいきません。私は研究所の所長である以前に診療所の所長でもあります。話を聞くのもケアの一環ですので。
それはとても良いことです。感服いたします。
私は東京の皆さんがうまく圧力をかけてくれて、いずれはダム計画を撤回してくれるものと分かっているからいいですが、村人にとっては先祖代々から住んできた土地を追い出されかねないと本当にすごい騒ぎです。
立ち退けと言われても引っ越せるほどのお金もなく若さもなく、立ち退き保証金の額の釣り上げが狙いだったのかもしれないけど、急にお役所の態度が変わっちゃって全面衝突。こうなってしまったら穏便に決着というのは無理かもしれませんわね。
かつては保証金に納得して立ち退きに応じようという人たちも少しはいたんですが、御三家の園崎家が強硬意見で村人をリードしてましてね、国との対決姿勢を煽っているようなんです。街宣車みたいなのがよく騒がしくしてますし、ビラやらチラシやら機関紙やらが回覧板と一緒によく回ってきますよ。
ここに住む人にとっては大変な問題ですからね。気持ちはわからなくもありません。
そういう意味では思惑は多少違うかもしれませんが、そんな皆さんのためにもこのダム計画は早く撤回になるよう交渉を進めてほしいものです。撤回されればこの村もすぐに落ち着きのある元の村に戻るでしょうから。
もちろん分かってます。それについては東京の方で交渉を進めておりますので、もうしばらく私どもにお任せください。
東京の方で噂を聞いたんですけれど、建設省の方になかなかうまく圧力をかけられるコネクションがなくて苦労してるとか。
いや私ごときでは詳しくは知りませんが、水面下調整がうまくいっていないのではという話も少し聞きます。
Takano had powerful people supporting her, but they didn't control all of Japan. There were some things they excelled in, but also other things that they weren't too good at. Oh, imagine if Takano is the one who spearheaded the idea of stealing the Minister of Construction's grandson. Imagine. I can definitely see that, honestly. Finding a way to put pressure onto the Minister of Construction fell into the latter.
冗談抜きで、ダムができますからここを立ち退いてくださいなんて話には本当にならないんですわよね。
もちろんです。それだけは絶対に問題ありません。時間がかかっているだけですので、皆さんはどうかそこは任せて研究を進めてください。穏便に済ませることができない場合は最終的な荒領事も辞さないことで意見はまとまっておりますので。
荒領事とは何ですか、富武さん。
そこは我々の領分です。入江所長は気にされなくて結構です。どうかお任せください。
Okay. And Tomitake definitely knows about it, about the kidnapping. They do have it in plan. I mean, Tomitake and Takano definitely talked about it. I guess it's a matter of who came up with the idea first. It would be shocking to hear it being from Tomitake first. But it will either be him or Takano or some other higher-ups from Tokyo.
そうですか。わかりました。よろしくお願いいたします。
大丈夫ですわよ、入江所長。ダム計画は絶 対に撤回されますわ。だってそう決まっているんですもの。
As Takano giggled, Tomitake laughed too. However, Irie couldn't understand what was so funny, so he felt left out. Irie only understood the meaning of those drastic measures when he examined a young boy he had never seen fish before. Ah. Like after the grandson got rescued, like afterwards. Yeah, I remember. Back in chapter 4. He was a part of the chapter as well, even if some may even forget that he was a part of the chapter. Back when Oishi and Akasaka tried to find the location of the grandson. Alright, let's see. Next is going to be Tomitake Jirou. Piece number 23, which I assume it's going to be on this page. No. Yeah, there you go. This fragment is required first. Alright. The forecast said there was a chance of rain in the evening, but I didn't think it would rain so hard. We decided to wait at an abandoned bus stop for the rain clouds to clear. Rain. You know, at the time of me going through this adventure, it is summer, yet again. And it is getting really hot these days. Not that I'm complaining too much, to be quite honest though. I guess I'm getting used to like the summer heat and all that. Plus I have like some fans with me in the room and all, even though at this point in time I cannot use them because it would make like noise into the microphone, so I'll definitely use them like afterwards. But yeah, waiting for the rain, that is part of summer. Those hot days when you are waiting with bated breath for the rain to come.
ごめんよ、高野さん。
あら、いいのよ、気にしないで、次郎さん。私も土砂降りになるかもしれないことを覚悟の上で出かけたんだから。
Takano-san giggled. Although she said the weather might change suddenly, I dragged her out here. I feel stupid for making her come along and end up ruining her precious day off. Now here's the question though, folks. Does Takano actually feel something for Tomitake? You know, romantically speaking? I mean, of course, there's that angle that we've seen at the end of chapter 7 where, of course, Takano with her womanly wiles would be able to persuade, affect Tomitake's heart however she wants, control him the way she wanted in order to further some goals. But even with that, I do have to ask, does she have like any feelings for Tomitake? Or has she been like teasing and oh my Tomitake, you're so strong and all that stuff like all this time just to have the upper hand on him like all this time? Yeah, there was no feelings for him like whatsoever. Which one is which? I have to go back to Tokyo tonight, so it'll be a while before I can return to Hinamizawa. I mean, if I'm to be honest, with the way Takano is, she is like a on-the-go kind of woman. Like her life mission right over here is to make the research known and to complete the research and make Hifumi's dream come true and all that. So it would make you think that she is not thinking of other stuff that much. Like a workaholic kind of person. I don't know. Like her, like thinking back, her being so interested in like the code stuff, like on top of doing this research to begin with, it is something. I mean, not to mention that we had those goofy moments of Takano just spinning around in like chapter 7 when she was given permission to search the shrine, the ritual storehouse. She was given permission by Rika, in like one of the very few occasions that Rika would allow such a thing, and Takana was full of glee and that kind of stuff. Like, what is that? Like, is it because she's happy that she is able to progress the research like faster with this permission given by Rika, or is it that in the meantime she has developed like a love for the occult that doesn't necessarily have to do with the research and all that, even though it helps, but maybe she developed like a love for the occult that maybe she would apply somewhere else. Like maybe if she wanted to, if the research was not something that she had to do in the first place, if the research was not her life goal, she would just do like research on the occult for like many regions, maybe. I don't know.
いや本当に申し訳ない。
She teased me for a while, but only a little. She wasn't actually enjoying driving me into a corner. Now, of course, as I said before, the reasoning for her obsessing over the occult and actually telling kids about it, it is to spook them. As I said, it's because she wants the kids to be paranoid and for the Hinamizawa syndrome to further progress like faster. That's something that I can agree with myself. The idea. That's just her way of communicating. And I find it very charming. I think I become captivated by her. But on her part, I'm just an auditor from Tokyo. And that's why she's being nice to me. And it's definitely not because she likes me personally. I don't know. Like, I like to think that there is something there. So I feel like I might have used my position to drag her out here. And that makes me a little depressed. I probably should think the slight fever I have is due to nothing more than a cold. But she was the type of person who made it clear when she disliked something. She wouldn't say so directly, but she would use all kinds of indirect expressions that meant the same thing. I don't know. The way she is, she's a very secretive person. Her goal in life is a very hard one. Therefore, she has to be secretive about this, and therefore she has to keep some stuff, like some of her emotions in check. Like, even if she disagrees with something, she has to, like, put a smile and all that, so that the research wouldn't fail. So I want to believe she's out here because she might be even a little bit attracted to me. And it kind of sucks that we are from Tomitake's perspective out of here. We cannot read Takano's perspective. Darn. I shook my head as I frowned upon my selfish thoughts. She chuckled, as though she knew what I was thinking. I felt myself starting to go red after that.
二郎さんも不思議な人ね。東京ではさぞや女性にモテるでしょうに。なぜわざわざ私みたいなおかしな女に付き合ってくださるのかしら。
おかしななんてことはないよ。高野さんは十分魅力的だよ。むしろ僕みたいな男のために貴重な休日を割いてもらったのが申し訳ないくらいだよ。
確かに私はとても大切な研究のために生涯を捧げたつもりだけど、それだけじゃ人生は潤いがないもの。たまには頭を切り替えて遊ぶことも大事だし、それに異性とのコミュニケーションは脳の活性にもとてもいいんだから。
僕ごときで高野さんの頭の気分転換のお役に立ててるならいいんだけどね。
あなたは私と一緒にいても気分転換にはならない？
She gives me an impish smile that makes my heart skip a beat. I tried hiding my embarrassment, so she wouldn't notice even my ears going red.
そんなことないよ。僕も高野さんと一緒に過ごせると、いろいろと気分転換になるよ。それにほら、高野さんに野鳥撮影のことを布教すれば、僕も撮影の同志を得られるわけだしね。もしよかったら、次に来るときは僕の古いカメラを持ってくるよ。買うと高いからね。
ありがとう。あなたを虜にする野鳥撮影がどれくらい楽しいのかぜひ教えていただけると嬉しいわ。ぜひ。
うん。僕のフルで少し挑戦してみて、馴染めそうだったら新しいカメラを買う方がいいんじゃないかな。東京に戻ったら送るよ。
ありがとう。次に来てくださるときはぜひ私の写真の批評をお願いするわね。
うん。どんな写真か楽しみだな。
きっと二郎さんみたいにはいかないわ。本当に初めてですもの。
While she keeps her cool and smiles, all I can do is blush and scratch my head. Am I being conceited? I can't help but think that Takano-san likes being with me. If it's mere flattery, I don't think she'd come along this far. I don't know. I mean, I like to believe it. Oh, no. Taking women's flattery seriously is the mistake I always make. I shouldn't assume that she's attracted to me.
そういえば、こうして二郎さんと二人きりでゆっくりおしゃべりをするのは初めてね。
そうだね。いつも所長とか他の研究員の人とかがいたりするからね。
私、あなたのことを全然知らないの。あなたが東京でどんな仕事をしているかとか、今までどんなことをしてきたのかとか、自衛隊ではどんな活躍をされているのかしら。
昔ちょっとだけ教官の真似事をしてたけどね。怪我をした時に目をやっちゃってね。普段の生活には支障はないんだけど、大ごとに受け取られちゃって、それ以来は事務屋の仕事ばかりやらされてるんだよ。
Takano-san giggles, saying I must have done something silly to cause the injury.
それでね、体内の広報誌を作る仕事を手伝った時に、イベントの写真撮影で初めてカメラの魅力を知ったんだよ。カメラには人を幸せにする力があるのさ。何を言ってるんだろうって思ってるだろうけど、いや、これは本当なのさ。僕はカメラに触れるようになってから日々に幸せを感じるようになったと思ってるよ。
カメラでどうして幸せになれるのかしら。
カメラというのは日々の生活を切り取って写真にして残すものなんだ。残すくらいなんだから幸せなものを写したいというのは当然だろ。じゃあ幸せなものはどこにあるんだろうと、ファインダー越しに自分の周りの世界を覗いてみると、そこには今まで当たり前だと思っていたものが実はとても幸せなものだったんだと気づくことでいっぱいなんだ。例えば路肩のアスファルトの隙間からけなげに生えている一輪のタンポポだって、忙しく通り過ぎる時にはただの雑草に過ぎないけれど、ファインダー越しに覗いた時、それは春の訪れを教えてくれる季節からの素敵な贈り物であったことに気づけるんだよ。それを写真に収めアルバムに残す。そしてアルバムを再び開くたびにその時の幸せな気持ちがよみがえってくるんだ。
二郎さんは 風景や野鳥の撮影をしながらそんな気持ちに浸っているの？
うん。その写真が芸術的かどうかとか、賞を取れるような劇的瞬間かどうかなんていう野心的なことは僕にとってあまり重要じゃないんだよ。僕たちが気づかない小さな幸せに気づかせてくれる。そこにこそカメラの魅力があるんだと思ってるんだ。だからそんな気持ちでこのhinamizawa沢をファインダーで覗けることはとても楽しくて幸せなことなんだよ。
I have a tendency to go overboard when I talk, but most of the time Takano-san playfully twists my words right back at me. So it's very unusual for her to listen to me like this. Takano-san sat down next to me and tried to fiddle with my camera. I don't know how much of an impression I made, but I think she is indeed interested in cameras. I was expecting her to tease me like usual, so I'm happy to see that this is her reaction.
ちょっと試してみるかい？
私にもできるかしら？
簡単だよ。最初はピントの合わせ方とシャッターの押し方だけ覚えれば十分さ。持ってごらん。ああ、レンズには絶対に触れちゃダメだよ。
ブー、簡単じゃないじゃない。
Since she seemed to show an interest in cameras, I wanted to take a walk right around Hinamizawa and take some pictures of the scenery. But unfortunately, the rain doesn't seem to want to stop. But she was still having fun and kept taking pictures inside the bus stop. So the first set of pictures she ever took were of odd things in that dark little building. Since then, every time we'd meet, we ended up walking around the village with our cameras in our hands. Alright, well that was cute. Like, of course, I like to believe that despite, like, Takano's main goal, she would find, like, moments of happiness, like, outside of it. Her interactions with Irie in general and, you know, possible love for the occult that doesn't have to do with the research and the way I said before. I don't know. Okay, next is gonna be about Irie, piece 18, which would be this. Group physical exams are very meaningful for our research. Although it's only for certain age groups, we can examine many of the Hinamizawa residents at the same time. It's a perfect cover for our research center. Also, because of several arrangements, we have a monopoly on the villagers' corpses, and can perform autopsies on them too. There certainly wasn't an environment this rich in an opportunity for those in the medical field. Our follow-up on the work of the late Dr. Takano is going smoothly. The amount of data he compiled is absolutely astounding. He truly was an incredible researcher.
失礼します、所長。
ああ、高野さん、お疲れ様です。
先ほど東京から残りの検査結果が郵送されてきました。こちらに置きますわね。
ありがとうございます。いよいよ面白くなってきましたね。
この面白さを共有できてとても嬉しいですわ。
Takano-san is my assistant, who was sent from the self-defense force. But she's far from the image I have of an SDS officer. Just like our research is being concealed, maybe her identity is concealed too. I'm sure her name is an alias as well. I'm just a doctor and a researcher. Without Takano-san's support, it would be impossible for me to manage this institution. She's a pipeline to our clients in Tokyo, my assistant, as well as a researcher who is an expert on Hinamizawa syndrome. Her existence is absolutely necessary here. The more I think about it, the more I feel this should have been the Takano Institute rather than the Irie Institute, and she should have been the director. But that was explained to me when they asked me to take this position. My client wanted a civilian to manage this place. They searched for a person who met their requirements, and there I was. I became the director. I have a feeling I'm just a puppet on their strings, but I won't just sit here and do nothing. I was asked to research a rare disease. I am a researcher, so of course I am excited about that. My client's goals might be different, but I'm here out of the desire to unravel the mysteries of Hinamizawa syndrome, and be the first person to uncover a new mystery for mankind.
hinamizawa症候群という寄生虫感染症がほぼ間違いなく存在するという浮かし彫りの情報はいくらでも集まるのに、原因となる病原体が発見できないのはとても悔しいですね。
そうですわね。電子顕微鏡を使えばあっさりと見つかるだろうという期待も少しはしていたもので。
The viruses are too small to see with a regular microscope, so the invention of the electron microscope was a dramatic advancement in the world of medicine. However, it's very expensive, and there's no way for a normal doctor to acquire one. Keep in mind, 1986, or earlier, the late Dr. Takano said an electron microscope could find the cause of the disease, but since his theory has been proven wrong. Even Takano-san was hoping an electron microscope would find it. She was disappointed when she didn't uncover anything after all the autopsies she performed. Our research seems to be having its first snag. It has actually stalled our work for several weeks now. Well, I mean, the idea would be that it is possible that the syndrome just disappears after the person dies, so it would be best to use the electron microscope like while the patient is alive? Which I have no doubt that they used it, so I guess not. So we need to think about where to go from here.
となると、極小の極小なのか。あるいは、検体そのものに問題があるのかもしれません。
と申しますと？
例えばですが、野生のネズミの体に多数のノミが寄生していることはご存知と思います。ですが、ネズミの死体を調べたところで、ノミを見つけることはできません。宿主が死んだ時点で、寄生虫であるノミの生活基盤も崩壊するからです。
I mean, that's the point that I said, yes.
宿主が死ねば、寄生虫にとってそれは地球が滅んでしまうのと同じことというわけですわね。
そうです。滅びた後の地球を調べても人類を見つけることができないのと同じです。
ということは、滅ぶ前の地球を調べればよいという話になりますわね。
そうですね。ただ、滅ぶ前の地球には人権があります。生きているうちに調べることは難しいでしょう。
Examining a living human's brain, no matter how you sugarcoat it, that bore very grave meaning. From a medical standpoint, it is necessary, but we have rules and morals in this world. Yeah, psychosurgery is not good morally, and we have to advance medicine with such boundaries. And I guess one could say that this is the point where it began, like the idea for Irie to, go with psychosurgery and use this as an opportunity to examine people while they're still alive in this matter, which, as it was stated before, he doesn't disagree with it. In fact, he actually favors it. I mean, I do hope that I'm right, that maybe Satoshi is one of the What are the patients in this state? There was a time when I was studying lobotomies for the betterment of mankind. I don't think I was wrong. Could I ever be forgiven under our ideas of ethics? I don't know. One day, my judgment will be handed down by the devil. Whether I'm guilty or not, I have to accept it. As I reflected upon my past, I heard a voice. It was Takano-san's. It was very clear and simple, yet it struck me with a surprise.
わかりました。滅ぶ前の地球を用意させましょう。
I'm startled. Sometimes the phrase advancing medicine bored the whisper of the devil, tempting us to accept sacrifices. I heard that devil whisper.
そんなに難しいことではありませんわ。Hinamizawaの住民で、すでに重篤の状態で市内病院に入院しており、いつ死んでもおかしくない患者を探させるだけですもの。
しかし、いくら余命いくばくとはいえ、自らの体を生きているうちに検体に差し出される勇気のある方がいらっしゃるでしょうか。
そんな必要はありませんわ。いずれ亡くなる方にほんの少し早くお休みいただくというだけの話ですわ。
Yeah. You know, I guess you could definitely say that the reason why Takano is influencing kids, like Shion, Rena, like people in general with her research notes to make them paranoid and have the Hinamizawa syndrome like progress to later stages is because at that point you are pretty much close to death's door. Like Shion and all that, and Satoshi too. In that sense, the reason why Takano would do such a thing, like give research notes and spook the kids and all that, like patients in general, is to further make them closer to death's door so that they can be kidnapped and then experimented on.
書類上ね。
The patient would be legally declared dead, even though they're still alive. Now, this begs the question though. Of course, Satoshi's circumstance, like family circumstance, is what made him so ill, to the point where he was more than likely kidnapped. But did Takano have like any hand in that as well? I don't know. It kind of feels like Satoshi's family situation did all the job just well, so that he was seen as a perfect patient for Takano and the Irie to do the research and kidnap him. I don't think that Takano had to do like anything in that case, and we perform an autopsy while they're still alive.
無理でしょう。第一、頭蓋を切開するような大手術となれば、絶対に痕跡は残ります。遺体を遺族の方が見られたら不審に。
そういうところを何とかできるのが私どもではありませんの。山犬に至急、条件を満たす患者が存在しないか、市内病院を調べさせます。先生は、お皿の前でナイフとフォークをお持ちになって、待っているだけでいいんですわ。すぐに料理をお持ちいたしますから。
Mio Takano is my partner. There's no question about that. But I just can't trust her. It's her extremities as a researcher which contrast largely with mine. But are we so different? I'm here simply waiting with a knife and a fork in my hands, just as she told me to. I just don't want to witness such a gruesome scene, that's all. What she's preparing for me now is exactly what I want. Who's the hypocrite? Not her. It's me. How can I say I'm different, knowing what I've done in the past? I've performed lobotomies without the patient's consent, despite it being surgery that might affect their life forever. How is that different from what she's doing? Yeah. It's because Takano knows that you've done such things in the past that she can basically tell you this, like, use you like this. I have never doubted my past achievements. However, when I look at her, I start to feel unease. Takano-san is talking to Okonogi-san on the intercom in my office. I'm sure she's telling him to come over so she can explain to him what was just discussed. I'm simply watching without stopping her. I begin to reflect upon my past, to remember why I chose to become a doctor. Alright, so what's next? Irie's personal history. Yeah, which would be this. I wanted to become a doctor ever since I was little. Doctors make a lot of money. People look up to doctors. I think those are the kind of reasons I had. So when I played with my friends, I always acted like a doctor. I cleaned their wounds and applied ice packs when my friends sprained their ankles, using what I learned from household medical books. Everyone, including me, believed that I'd be a doctor one day. My family was poor, so they praised me for that goal. They told me that I needed to study a lot to become a doctor. So they borrowed some pseudo-medical books from the local library for me. The rental fees weren't cheap. So I would speed read one book in a day and the next. My parents would go back to the store to exchange it for a different book, saying they accidentally borrowed a book they already borrowed before. By doing so, my parents borrowed 2 books for the price of 1. Of course, now I know those books were rather useless, but they were highly motivational just the same. Were they useless? My neighbors called me Dr. Kyosuke-kun, and I always picked for class health officer at school. Even my teachers helped me with the classes I needed to become a doctor. Of course, in reality, becoming a doctor isn't as easy as it might seem. I had to study diligently, and the path was almost definitely rough. To become a doctor, one must attend college. Since my family was poor, I was told I wasn't allowed to go to an expensive private school. So I had to be admitted to a national public university. My grades weren't bad, but the admission rate to national public universities is very marginal. Especially since I wanted to go to a medical school, my chances were even smaller. I studied like crazy. My only driving force was my childhood dream of becoming a doctor. The dream of becoming a doctor and to be looked up to by everyone kept me going. And I was admitted. I wasn't at the top of the list, but I made it in. I was finally at the starting point of making my childhood dream come true. My parents were thrilled. Neither my father nor mother went to college, so they were proud of their son getting into a public medical school. They invited our relatives over to celebrate. Although it was a public university, tuition wasn't cheap, but they still had an extravagant celebration anyway. My father didn't express his emotions much. He always kept a straight face. He rarely voiced his opinion or took initiative on anything. My mother took care of everything, and he showed up last and left without saying a word. He was the typical stern and silent Japanese father of the time. And that's why I was surprised to see him shedding tears of joy, and I cried along with him. Aww. He went around to all my relatives while repeatedly slapping my back, saying how proud and lucky he was to have a son like me. He bragged about my achievements to all who would hear them. That celebration became my farewell party as about to leave for Tokyo. My father yelled, "Banzai!" repeatedly at the station as the train pulled away. I was a little embarrassed, But when I could no longer see my father, I could clearly recall the tears pouring down. The days of hellish studying and exams began after that. Some days, I was tempted to just give up and submit myself to the lavish lifestyle of the city. But the letters from my family always encouraged me and gave me the strength to go on. My dream, then, was to open up my own clinic in my hometown, so I could contribute to the region. I never even dreamed of getting involved with brains. One day, I noticed a difference in a letter from my family. The letter said the usual things about how he was at home, and asked how I was doing. But the postscript was what caught my attention. Your father has become really violent lately. Sometimes he turns the house upside down, and I don't know what to do. I just couldn't picture him acting viciously. I was extremely surprised. Did something happen? But in the postscript, my mother said that there was nothing she could think of. My mother and father had been together for a long time. They'd been together since well before I was born. So she noticed things that I couldn't. She couldn't even think of a reason why my father had become so violent. Huh. What happened? They got along so well. They were such a lovely couple. When I caused a problem for my mother when I was little, my father only bonked my head with his knuckle. Why was he acting this way towards my mother? Maybe there was some kind of misunderstanding between them. I was going home for the new year. Maybe I could have a good talk with him then. Alright. But the situation was a lot more serious than I thought. On one cold winter day, I found my apartment door unlocked. I thought someone had broke in, but I found my mother in my apartment with her luggage. That's right, my mother could no longer take my father's fury, and came to stay with me. And this was back when people still believed in the proverb, a woman has no place to settle down all her life. She couldn't go back to her own family, because they lived in the same region as my father, so she came all the way to Tokyo. I heard about my father's violence from my mother's own lips. She cried, saying she had no idea why such a quiet man changed like that. She said she was never going back to him. I didn't know what to do. I asked her if she could talk to him one more time, but the bruises on her body told me it was no use. To remember what happened afterwards is too much, so I'll be brief. After my mother left, my father thought she was having an affair and went over to the neighbor's house with a wooden sword. He was arrested. He was released immediately, but he assumed someone in the neighborhood was hiding her, so he did the same thing repeatedly. He eventually reached the point of getting into fights with anyone he saw. In the end, he picked a fight with some young punks and ended up being beaten to death. My God. My relatives gave my father a decent funeral, but my mother didn't attend. It's no use beating a dead horse, so nobody said anything negative about my father, but everyone was simply puzzled as to why he changed so much. What I heard from my relatives about my father's final days was a lot stranger than what I heard from my mother. My mother only told me about his sudden rage and violence, but my relatives told me he also laughed and grew sad. Apparently, he displayed several sudden fluctuations of emotion, especially so in his last years. They also told me that he started to complain about headaches after an accident he had. My father was a construction worker. He had hit his head hard on the construction board during an accident at work. He regained his consciousness quickly and seemed fine, but since the accident, he started to have headaches and behave abnormally. I sensed the connection between the accident and my father's changes, so I talked to my professor after I went back to Tokyo.
断言はできませんが、 その様子から入江君のお父さんに何らかの異常が起こっていた可能性は否めません。その事故の際に脳が傷つき、精神的な変化を起こしたのかもしれませんね。お父さんの晩年の言動からは、そんな患者さんに多く見られるいくつかの症状が伺えます。
Human behavior is created by the brain, and if the brain is damaged, it can cause erratic behavior. In other words, my father wasn't crazy. He was suffering from a disorder.
お父さんの遺体を検視できるなら、脳をよく調べてみるといいでしょう。ひょっとすると、腫瘍のようなものが見つかるかもしれません。
My father had already been cremated, so there was no way of knowing. But hearing about his behavior, I knew for sure that was the only way to explain why such a quiet and gentle man would change. I tried to explain all this to my relatives to regain my father's honor, but hardly anyone understood. If his brain was damaged, he would have been dead. But he was alive and well, so the accident didn't damage his brain. It wasn't his brain that caused him to change, it was his mind. They simply brushed it off like that. And this is the perception most people have about the brain. They don't realize the mind and the brain are connected. Most relatives didn't believe me, but there was one person who I really wanted to anyway. That was my mother. As she got older, she grew senile, and she exaggerated the abuse she had to endure. All she did was criticize my father, and every time she ended up crying, lamenting that she married him. They were a lovely couple. We were a great family, and that's why I wanted to convey to her that she was misunderstanding the situation with my father. My father's behavior was caused by his brain damage. What he did to her was very sad, but he didn't want to be that way. I told her that he wasn't at fault. But my mother didn't understand. Before she took her last breaths, I begged her to forgive my father. But her final words were, "Please don't bury me next to that man." My father wasn't at fault. He was simply the victim of a brain disorder. You don't complain to a person who's coughing because he has cold. Because coughing is just a symptom, and he should be sympathized with. In my father's case, the symptoms weren't as obvious as a cough, and they took the form of changes in personality, which are much harder to recognize. If I had studied the brain more, I could have explained it better to my mother so that she could have understood him. Then, they could have been a nice couple again in heaven. When I realized that, I cried. And I also realized that there are plenty of people like my father in this world who are suffering from a disorder, yet they are misunderstood and despised for it. And then I found out. I found out about a miraculous cure for such a disorder. It's called a lobotomy. Ever since that day, I spent my days learning about the brain, so I could help people who are suffering from mental illnesses. My father is gone, but if he was still alive, I could cure him myself, so he and my mother could reconcile. That's the main reason why I'm here. Higurashi, I hate you. I hate you with all my blood today. Like, why is it that every single character in this fucking story has to have like such a sad backstory like this? Jesus Christ. Well, a sad backstory for Irie was not on my bingo card today, but apparently I should have seen it. What's next? Jirou Tomitake is also gonna have like some sad backstory like this? Was he abused during his childhood or anything like that? Jesus freaking Christ. Okay. Let me open up the fucking guide. I had it closed right over here. Man, this is fucking crazy. We couldn't just have like Irie just have like an abnormal session for lobotomy. No, there had to be like sad backstory behind it. Requesting assistance from a queen. Okay, there you go. The research need to have hit its first snag. Instructions for kidnapping operation of the minister's grandson are required. Okay. I trust the guide. That very night, the head of the Furude family, the priest, gathered his wife and Rika together for a family meeting. In Hinamizawa, it was tradition for the three families to gather and discuss the village's issues. So it was hardly unusual for big families like the Sonosake family and the Kyosuke family to have meetings beforehand, to sort out opinions among themselves. However, the Furude family had lost its branch families, so there were only 3 of them left. So until that day, they had never had a family meeting at all.
どうしたんですか、改まって。ひょっとしてダムに関わるお話ですか？
The dam was the most important issue in the village at the moment. The wife naturally assumed that the priest wanted to talk about the dam. For him to gather all of them together like that, it must be a huge decision he had to make. Perhaps he was going to talk about joining the pro-evacuation camp.
いや、ダムの話ではない。だが、この村に関わる、いや、この村のご先祖様たちにも関わる、とても大事な問題だ。
The Furude family had served in the priesthood of Oyashiro-sama, the guardian deity of the village, for generations. So for him, the head of the family, to start out that way, it must be something extremely important. Yet, he said it wasn't about the dam. So what could he want to talk about?
私は入り婿だ。だから、フルデ家の本当の血を受け継ぐお前とリカにはよく聞いてほしい。
Alright, sure, why not? How about you give us like a 30-minute backstory for yourself, Rika's dad? Like how you were abused during childhood, or one of your relatives has like a mental illness or brain disorder, whatever, or something like that.
お前たちは普通の人間ではないのだ。
僕はお社様の生まれ変わりなのですよ。
リカ、そういうのは口にしてはいけません。あなた、そういう話はリカのいないところでしましょう。それでなくっても、集会所のお年寄りたちがリカに妙なことばかり吹き込んで。
そのお社様の生まれ変わりというのが、どうも本当らしいのだ。
は？
少し長い話になる。二人ともしばらく黙って私の話を聞きなさい。
And the wife had a dumbfounded expression on her face, not knowing what he was going to say. But Rika was completely relaxed, wearing her usual carefree expression. A.k.a. she heard this like hundreds and hundreds of times, so she is bored out of her mind, like in the back of her mind.